This week on Podcast Perspectives,
I think the first mistake that people make when trying to sell ads is starting a show to sell ads.
Today's guest on the show is Ryan Alford, the founder and CEO of the Radcast Network and host of Right About Now, one of the top business and marketing podcasts in the country. Ryan brings a really fresh perspective to the podcast industry based on his years doing brand awareness campaigns, social media campaigns for all kinds of clients, and how he thinks about the idea of growing and monetizing podcasts today. Welcome to the show, Ryan. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Jeff. Proud to be here. Excited. Love what you're doing. I'm a big fan.
Well, appreciate that. So how'd you get into podcasting?
I started my agency after a crash and burn startup. I worked for agency and marketing world and big marketing land for 15 years for other people. And my first startup was in the car business. So go figure, a crash and burn. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I should have done, which is start my own ad agency. This is about 10 years ago. And I don't consider myself a futurist, but I saw the potential of content. And my whole agency was sort of started on this proliferation and the democratization of content and the ability to generate content at scale affordably. And I recognized podcasting as a way to do that, to build personal brand, personal authority when I didn't want to have a camera follow me around.
I'm curious, 10 years ago, what kind of content were people really focused on making back before what we know of podcasting today?
It started in this, I think, false premise of the content is about you. And Gary V made it famous, camera following him around. And you could presume very easily that it was about him. But Gary was just doing a bunch of exciting shit. And so camera following him around was interesting because he's in New York City going to meetings and doing things and tasting wine and all these. And so his lifestyle and business made it interesting. So a lot of people 10 years ago started doing that. I was just never going to be the guy that had a camera following around. But I did believe in having conversations and doing long form content that could be used in a multi-purpose way to grow authority.
In the Gary V Barstool world today and 10 years ago, a lot of this was, let's just record everything and then we'll clip the interesting parts, start on social. Maybe we write a couple blogs about it. And you're saying that you had this moment where you recognize the power of that, but you wanted to do it in a different way, which for you was long form storytelling and interviewing. And how did that fit into the marketing agency that you had built at that point in time?
Yeah, I would call it intentional curation of the best and legendary people. And we're going to call it the 2.0 phase. 1.0 phase was learning phase. 2.0 phase of the Radcast was intentional documenting and bringing on legendary people to talk about legendary business advice and marketing advice. I have ADD. I don't watch a lot of content, but I can get in the zone, headphones on the mic with smart people and learn from them. So my first 200 guests were a way for me to do YouTube without YouTube. I learned from them a lot of advice, sage of things, and, hot topics at the time.
And what kind of clients were you working with at that point? Who was hiring you?
Not mom and pop, but small, medium. Hey, they looks pretty good on you, but we both know that's a medium. Clients that look pretty good on the roster, but didn't necessarily pay $5 million, but they, 6-figure clients that were medium sized. B2B was a big niche for us, and actually still is the only niche we're in now with the agency. We weren't working with Coke or Verizon or Audi like I did in New York with other agencies.
And you were helping them make content for social?
Yeah, content for social.
And so you're doing this for these medium companies, and you have Right About Now on the side, your podcast. You publish a couple hundred episodes. And at what point were you like, oh, this is the thing. I can really do this more than I am today.
It's funny when you've got, a spreadsheet and you look at your revenue sources and it was folded under the agency, the revenue pie of, the podcast and what was generating, that bar graph started getting to a certain height and I wasn't counting every dollar. And I was like, this is becoming more important to what we do. We get in those meetings, review the numbers, and those same people go, this is not a waste of time, is it?
Yeah. I'm very impressed that you were able to monetize it to that point. We work with a lot of folks, and even this show that you're on right now, a lot of the reason that we do it is it's content marketing, it's general awareness, engagement, and education for myself and the staff, and it's lead gen. Like I get in a room with cool people like you that I can hopefully do work with in the future. And monetization is a huge part of this, but it's not like the reason that we're doing it because it's just for us, like we're back where you were like 2 years. Like it's just not a big enough vehicle for it to make sense for us to monetize via advertising. So kudos to you. And I'm sure that all the rest of the stuff was a big piece of that up until that point for you. So right about now, started making some real dollars, and you were doing this as like a larger part of your day to day. And then at what point did you kind of sit down and say like, what if I replicate this for other people?
I had that thought probably 4 years ago. We were doing a lot of video production. So we were a 12-person boutique digital social agency, and 5 of my employees were videographer editors, and we were traveling around. We produced 10,000 pieces of content a month. So yeah, we posted it and managed it too, but we produced it. We had in-house, as a 12-person digital agency, we had a killer in-house video production company. And I had, 5 20 to 25-year-old ninja shooter editors doing stuff that would have cost 20 to 50x 10 years earlier, like 2010. This is like right around COVID time or a little before it. I leaned into the video affordably with social management. That was a big part of what we did the first 4 years. That work started to get harder and harder to retain those ninjas. And I was looking for a place to pivot. And I always believed we could do the podcasting for others. I would have done it 7 years ago because I saw it, but it wasn't time for that to replace the capabilities we already had.
Yeah, you had a good business. It was making money.
And I didn't want to be a 35-person agency with podcasting services and what we were already doing. Like I did that. I'd already done that. I hadn't managed 100 people in New York. I got to build a 100-person agency 7 years ago. I don't want to do that. So you had two things: timing right for us, going higher, knowledge, awareness, mass desire for podcasting going higher. And those two, opportunity meets capability.
It was like 2022 that you officially launched Radcast Network, right?
Yeah.
And what did that look like? Who were your first clients? Were you producing and monetizing and growing like a traditional network, or was there a different vision there?
We piloted 5 shows. We brought them on full service, soup to nuts, production, ads. They were all self-help or business shows similar to ours. Brought them on for a year contract to do all of that, management, production.
They were paying you at that point to
Yeah, full service. It was 80% production, content development, administration, and 20% marketing of the show.
2022 comes around, you have 5 clients, you are producing, you're growing, you're monetizing. How long did that go for? Because you're not producing stuff today for clients, are you?
We edit a couple shows that aren't our own.
So you have like a small post-production house, but for the most part, what does the network look like? Is it you're licensing a bunch of shows out there? What is the Radcast niche?
I would say the Radcast niche is we grow your show. Well, first, it's setting expectations. If your budget is 0, we're going to give you the list of 30 things and 30 ways to grow your show that we can do for you that are organic.
So what are some examples of that? You have cross promos, you have guesting on other shows, you have pitching the podcasting apps, you have publishing to social. Do you have any like silver bullets there that you really pay attention to on the organic side?
I like to fish where the fish are. And so I like to run ads or organic insertions on YouTube or social media on other shows or with audience. You go after the audience, right? I don't chase podcasts, I chase audience. If we're talking organic, non-paid, just sweat equity, it's getting mentioned, getting inserted. How can you become a thought leader so that then you get invited on a show that's a newsy show on something? And so your name and your podcast gets mentioned amongst people that are your audience. I think there's some of that that sounds cliche and is being done. I think there's some ninja tactics underneath all that that are a little harder to do.
No, I think you're right. There's a million ways to describe all of it. It boils down to just you need to be where your potential listener or viewer is.
Your show is as big as you are resourceful. It's all resourceful and grit. And look, yes, you got to have a good show. So table stakes, you need Podglomerate to produce your show. And once you have good production, then it's about grit and resourcefulness.
We talked a little organic. When it comes to paid, what can you do to supercharge a show's growth when it comes to having a budget? If I had 20 grand to give you right now, where would you put it?
I have no problem using high reach, high frequency, medium quality. Some people call like television pray and spray. I agree and disagree with that statement.
And they say that because you're buying a zillion impressions based on forecasted viewership, but half your audience might be in the kitchen making dinner.
Yep. I'm going to make up some figures. For example, I'd rather spend $1,000 and reach 1 million people 10 times. Don't know that you can do that. That's probably way out of bounds. But let's
It's a
just
little
say,
aggressive.
yeah,
but
okay.
yeah.
100,000 people 10 times, and maybe only 14 to 20% of those are your perfect, ideal, likely subscriber. But I'd rather get reach and frequency at a low cost, at an affordable cost, than hyper targeted, hoping that I spent $3,000 on 10,000 perfect people and hope that they subscribe. I'd rather 10 or 20x my reach and frequency, because I believe in the power of brand and the power of word of mouth, and that people that may not become your subscribers might talk about it. You do get mind share when you get enough frequency.
You're essentially saying if you throw a bigger net, then you're going to catch more fish.
Yeah, that's right. And I like to uncover audiences that aren't always known. And look, I love to be specific. I might not be targeting a soccer mom that's 34 with 3 kids and, and makes $100,000 a year. Like that's an expensive target because it's hyper specific. If I can grow a show with an affordable, wide-reaching, more listeners, more people trying, generating programmatic ad dollars, other ad dollars so that people get their messages heard, and you're not overcharging CPMs because maybe your audience isn't perfect yet, but like you do have people listening, you have people consuming. The money made from that, or money from leads, whatever it does that generates money for you, then reinvesting into some higher quality, strategic, surgical tactics.
It is the case that 10 years ago, you could launch a show and kind of no matter how good or bad it was, you were going to find an audience because there just wasn't that many options out there. And that is no longer the case. You're competing against millions of other shows out there, and you need to do something to stand out, and you need to make a good quality product, and then you need to bring people in to find it. So I love talking to you about this because I think that it's like a unique vantage point that I personally don't hear a lot. And there's a second piece of this that I think you do extremely well that I want to talk through, because you are really good at flooding all of the platforms with like really great quality clips and like full episodes and short clips and social clips and everything in between. And you do this both for Right About Now and for the Radcast shows. And you just launched a trading card podcast, and like the clips that you have out there are beautiful, they're relevant, they're fun to watch. Talk about how you think about that side of the industry, how people should be thinking about that for their podcast.
I would bet I'm the number one business show on the planet, and I'm just about business, definitely marketing. If you add up every view of 15 to 45-second content, so like, and you count that, it counts to me. That's an impression. Because my goal isn't just to have a popular podcast. My goal is to have authority and have attention and to have leverage. The long form podcasts generate short form content that I can then have 1 million people that never, ever tune in to the show, but they watch 10% or 50% or 100% of all because I'm in their algorithm and they see me every day talking about something. That's a win.
And this has been a big question over the last year or two. It's like, if somebody watches an Instagram reel, are they a listener or a viewer? In my opinion of that is yes, they are. But the caveat being, you can't monetize that.
You're being monetized right now, Jeff. You don't even know it. How many things do I have on that I get paid for? How many things are behind me that I will clip and get paid for? You can monetize anything. You can monetize 30 seconds, 15 seconds. And if you really pay attention and go look at all our clips, we had like 4 brands on the page, on the screen at the entire, every time we sold every second.
So the hats make more sense now.
This is branded bills. They make the best custom hats in America.
For the listener, every time I've talked to Ryan in the last few weeks, he has a different hat on, and he always makes sure to change his hat before he gets on camera. This is new. I didn't know this. So walk me through a little bit about how this works. Are you selling that based on a CPM? Are you selling that on an affiliate situation?
I don't do any affiliate deals. You got to pay for a top of mind awareness, not bottom. You don't just get to pay for bottom of the funnel sales. You got to pay for the whole funnel. There's a funnel for a reason.
When we started this interview, I said to you before we were recording that I feel like you represent this new version of podcasting. I'm going to refine that and say that you represent an old version of marketing that podcasting doesn't have, because anybody or a lot of people in podcasting got into it because they love This American Life or Heavyweight or something. And then they had to learn how to run their organization's marketing or their show's marketing from there. Whereas there's 100 years or more of marketing know-how that's out in the world that has been applied to everything for a very long time, that a lot of people are just now introducing into the audio and video space. And so this is why I find it so fascinating to talk to you, because I think you're really good at it. But I also think that it represents something that you don't see all the time in podcasting.
100% agree. No, we've built this world of podcasters and influencers, everything else that are giving away free awareness. And you know what? You can say, well, Ryan sells everything. He's a salesman. No, you're going to get your money's worth when you work with me. I'm very discerning in who we work with, but I'm going to make it valuable, and no one's going to make it. And you making a sale doesn't make it more valuable to me. These podcasters are like, we're still in this generation of non-sophisticated, non-professional, like, belief systems because they think it's a hobby. Podcasting is not a hobby anymore if you're doing it in a professional manner.
I would push back a little bit on a lot of people thinking that it's a hobby, because I think people want this to be a very professional setup. I just don't think a lot of people have the background necessary for them to get beyond the idea of it being a creative endeavor. Whenever I'm having conversations about sales for any of our shows, it's very much a conversation of how many impressions can you give me? What is the CPM that you're offering? Here is what I'm expecting the conversion rate to be. And if we don't hit it, we're not going to renew. I think that has become the de facto conversation for most agencies, because they have a spoils of riches in terms of like what shows they can buy on. So if something doesn't work out for them, they can move on to the next one. If you listen to my episode with Adam McNeil, he's very much of that school of thought. And he is, I think, one of the smartest people in the podcast agency world. That said, there's a million situations like the ones that you were just talking about that are still going to be incredibly valuable for anybody who wants to operate in the space, that just aren't getting the time of day because it's not a quick and easy, we're going to get 100 conversions if we spend $10,000.
Yeah, everything changes. People come and go, things that have nothing to do with us. But some of the most loyal directs over time, that world's changed a little bit with programmatic and other things, but you got to adapt and pivot like anything else. But I do think I'm a radical guy that in some ways you would think it would be like radical believer. I don't know if I'm a radical guy or not, but a radical believer, you know, well, I have a wife and 4 kids and coach basketball every week. I do think there's a really bad thing happening with the performance marketing side of things. Like, you have to build brand. You have to build top of mind awareness. Like, I've seen some of these companies that come and go in the brands, they come to us and they want these performance deals, and I've never heard of them. And I know why. Because they're doing this where they're trying to grab the bottom, like, you know, if there's 1,000 people, they're trying to grab the 10 people that will buy today, because not everyone's buying at the exact same time. So you have to have reach and frequency to be top of mind. And I know why, because they're a startup and their investors want a quick return, and They're just trying to scoop as many sales as possible to stay alive. But the best companies and the ones that last didn't build it that way and don't today. Like, it doesn't work that way to build a company that stands the test of time.
What is the future of Radcast? What are your plans over the next couple of years?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. The Collector Nation, I've gotten into trading cards and collectible space, the hobby, from a media perspective, and it's a booming industry. 50 billion, something like right now. It's supposed to be 236 billion by 2034. And I'm going to build the ESPN of the hobby.
This makes me so happy. We talked about this the other day, but Pat Flynn, who is another big podcaster, he runs an Instagram account called Deep Pocket Monsters. And it's one of the largest Pokemon trading card things in the world. And I know you're doing sports, but same idea, collectibles, trading cards, and
Pokemon will be a part of it.
And that's the thing. It's like this organization, Pat Flynn, I haven't spoken to him, but I imagine that he's spending a lot more time on Pokemon than podcasts these days.
And this is an affluent, money-spending audience, and big brands need to pay attention. And so we need to aggregate the best and the brightest of the creators and the content in the space. And then we need for them to get recognized by the brands for the power that they wield, because they move the market. These are true influencers.
Very cool. Well, where can people find you?
TheCollectorNation.com is where you're going to see everything that we're doing under the hobby. Ryan Alford, you can always Google that. I've been verified before you could buy it for a number of years. So yes, the blue check there. Don't care about it, but it does mean it's me. There's not a ton of Ryan Alfords. And anywhere on social media, you Google that name, and my fancy dancy Wikipedia, whatever the hell that is, that comes up. I don't know how that happened. Some magic happened. And hey, there's a picture of me. And that's at least 80% right of things I've done.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, happy to do it.
For more podcast-related news, info, and takes, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Jeff Umbro. Podcast Perspectives is a production of the Podglomerate. If you're looking for help producing, marketing, or monetizing your podcast, you can find us at podglomerate.com. Shoot us an email at listen@thepodglomerate.com or follow us on all socials at PodglomeratepOds. This episode was produced by Chris Boniello and myself, Jeff Umbro. This episode was edited and mixed by Jose Roman. Thank you to our marketing team, Joni Deutsch, Madison Richards, Aaron Weiss, and Sheba Joseph. And a special thank you to Dan Christo. Thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you in a few weeks.